Hi, I'm Donna. This is the fourth class in my Introduction to Yoga course. Welcome. A little bit of equipment today. We're going to look at kneeling. A little stool, like a little footstool, would be good. You might not need it. Blanket, and I've got a couple of blocks, so I'll show you how we're going to try those. We're also going to have a little introduction to downward facing dog pose. You might have heard of that, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So we'll get started and come to the back of your mat and just kneel up. So you'll know pretty soon once you start to try and put your bottom down onto your heels if that's going to work for your knees. And if it doesn't, that's where we use props. So maybe you only need something that's not too high. So it could just be a block. I put the block that way, not that way, so that my sit bones will land onto the block. And it goes between my feet. So 2 makes it a little bit higher, and then the angle is not so tight in your knees. So you can keep building up, and that's where the stool might come in useful. It's really important that you don't hurt your knees. It shouldn't hurt to kneel. Maybe if you've had an injury that you haven't been able to heal properly. So it's quite high, that stool, but if I really had trouble with kneeling, that would be a good way of doing it. So what I can get now is the stretch in the front of the ankles. Okay, so just play around with the equipment you've got and see if you can get the right height. Some people, normally when I kneel, I use a blanket like that. And if I use the end of the blanket to sit on, again, my sit bones will fit on there, but my feet are either side of the blanket. So I'm going to put that there. Feet straight back. So what you might find happens is your toes turn in. Okay, and I want you to try and stretch your ankles evenly, inside face and outside face of the ankles. So the feet are parallel and your legs are parallel. So the knees aren't out. Good. Maybe it's not your knees that find it really uncomfortable here. It might be the ankles. So the trick for that is to take a little blanket and make a roll. Good. And the roll goes under the front of the ankles where they're feeling tight. So you can maybe put it like that, or maybe you've got your block here. So you can try that. But same thing, we want the feet to be parallel, to go straight back, for the legs to be parallel. Okay, so just play around with your equipment, but when you're kneeling, it's really important that you're not hurting your knees. And once you've found that good support, feeling the legs parallel, the feet parallel, and use your hands to help you think about lifting your spine. And then just rest your hands into your lap and find your breath. Breathing in and out through your nose. So that the breath is moving past the front of your brain through the sinus. Let yourself bring your focus just to your breathing. Taking in the sensations that might arise in your body from this position. And if you're not used to kneeling, it will feel really strong. And you can always ease yourself out of the posture and just take a little break in an all fours position, or maybe kneeling up. So if that sensation really becomes too intense. Otherwise, if you can manage to just take notice. Good work. And then we're going to do that, come into an all fours position. So you don't need your equipment for that unless you want a blanket underneath your knees. So in all fours, we're going to stretch the fingers and press your fingerprints. So give them a really nice wide stretch. And press the base of your index fingers, stretch your thumbs towards each other. Have a look at your elbows. Notice if your elbow creases can face in different directions. And of course you want them to match. So I'm going to face mine towards each other. Maybe it's a little better for you to do 45 degrees, but just try and make them even. Good. And then we're going to make little circles around the wrist. You might notice that will give a more intense stretch as you reach your shoulders forward. So don't overdo it, just listening to your hands, trying to use them powerfully and wisely. Take your circles in the other direction. My knees are about as wide as my hips, with room for my back to be comfortable. Good, and then find a position where you can have your shoulders as close to over your wrists as you can. You might need to have your shoulders back a little bit so it's easier for your hands. Good. And we're going to arch the spine up and arch the spine down. Arch the spine up and arch the spine down. Good, and keep going. And as you arch your spine up and down, you're looking for all of the movement that you can find, so you could articulate between each bone. And then you might start to think about letting the movement follow the rhythm of your breathing, rather than the other way around. So that you're not trying to hold your breath in or hold your breath out. And you're breathing in and out through your nose. Good. And then you're going to take your knees out a little bit wider and bring your toes together and take your your hips back as close to your heels as your knees allow. And that support that you were using earlier, maybe that's useful in this posture. So a blanket can go in behind your knees if you find it difficult, because then you can get the sensation that you can really send the tailbone down. So you want to anchor the pelvis and reach the torso forward, the arms forward. You might be able to rest your forehead onto the floor. You could always use another blanket if you like, if you don't quite reach. So that the posture can become more restful for you. The equipment really is only if you feel you need it. Sometimes it helps us achieve a posture when we can't quite reach, when the resistance in our body is still present. Good, and then back up into your all fours position. So wide, even spaces for your fingers. Press your fingerprints, the base of your index fingers. So your knees are back just a little from the line of your hips. So you've got room to move your spine. You feel comfortable in your back. Good. You're going to press or lift your belly to support your spine and tuck your toes under. Lift your knees off the floor and reach your hips back towards the wall behind you. Now your legs might feel a little bit stiff. That's okay. So you can keep your heels up, keep your legs bent, but lift your hips as high as you can and see if you can send your sit bones back towards the wall behind you. And let your spine lengthen. Notice if the effort of lifting up, you squashed your shoulders. So make the shoulders wide, shoulder blades wide, between the collarbones wide. Let the breath feel really satisfying. In and out through your nose. Good. And then you're going to gently take your knees back to the floor, and this time resting into child's pose. So again, finding your kneeling position that's going to suit your knees. And I'm going to take my knees out wide so there's room for my torso, toes touching here. If your forehead doesn't reach the floor, if you need to keep your hips higher so that your knees are not hurting, you might find that loose hands underneath your forehead really help. So whatever your child's pose position is, you're looking for a space where you can tune into your breathing. Good, and then you're going to reach your arms all the way forward again, forward virasana. And from there, lifting up into your all fours position. So walk your knees back hip width distance. Your hands are about shoulder width distance. You've got just the right position for your shoulders over your wrists so that your wrists aren't uncomfortable. So it should feel like a stretch, but not hurting. Press the fingerprints, press the base of the index fingers. Good. We're going to make the cat stretch again. So arching your spine down, arching your spine up, and enjoying finding all of your movement, all of your suppleness. Breath by breath. You might even like to wriggle your hips or your ribs from side to side, as well as moving the spine up and down. Good. Finish off with the spine reaching down, so like a valley, but you're going to lift your belly, tuck the toes under, and lift your knees off the floor again. Downward facing dog pose, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Okay, so your legs are bent to start with and your heels are up high, but lift your hips as high as you can. Open the chest, wider and more spacious around your heart. Take the chest towards the front of the legs, just nod your head. You're trying to close the gap between the chest and the legs. Good, and then see how you go pressing one heel down straight. Might be a big, strong stretch in the back of the leg. Just notice. And then bend that leg. Press down the opposite heel. Breathe deeply. In and out through your nose. In a way that feels really satisfying. Keep swapping the stretch of the legs. One heel down and the other leg bends. But the shoulders feel wide. The collarbones feel wide. So your neck is relaxed. Keep going with your legs. And if you nod your head, just notice how your neck feels. Good. And then we're going to gently bring both knees to the floor and take a rest into your child's pose, your version of child's pose, Balasana. So if your hips reach back easily onto your heels, it's really nice to rest your arms beside you. And you might like to squeeze your fingers into a fist. Squeeze and release, and squeeze and release. Your hips might be higher. Make sure your hands are really resting underneath your forehead. There's no pressure on your hands or fingers. Good, and then we're going to reach the arms all the way forward again, as straight as you can. Make the collarbones as wide as you can, as much space across your heart. Good. We're trying to bring the armpits a little closer to the floor. Good, and then come up into your cat stretch position, so wide, even spaces between your fingers. Press the base of the index fingers, press the fingerprints. Good, arch your spine down, look up, arch your spine up, look at your belly button, arch your spine down, look up, hold it there, squeeze your tummy to your spine, tuck the toes under, Ardha Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog pose. And this time we're going to go for reaching both heels down to the floor. Lift your sit bones, so the bones at the base of the pelvis, lift them up high, stretch the back of the legs. Lift the kneecaps, the quadriceps. The quadriceps are the front thigh muscles. Lift them up so you feel really strong in your knees. Good, and we're reaching the hips back, lengthening the belly, the chest, the armpits. Nod your head, relax your neck. Breathe deeply. Great work. And then from there, we're going to take little steps forward. So you try to press your heel down to the floor as you walk forward. And at some point, you're going to run out of room. Your legs are just going to feel a little bit too tight, or it's too strong on your back. So you're going to bend your legs and roll up. Sweep your arms out. Lift your breastbone. Look up. Reach up. Good. And as you exhale, we're going to take a stance. Lift the front of your knees. Lift the front of your thighs. Lift the front of your hips. When you don't do that, the spine has to compensate to try and keep you upright. But when you lift the front of your knees, thighs, hips powerfully, just notice if it gives you a little bit more room in your lower back. I hope it does. So we're going to lift up. We're going to take the arms up and look up. So you're making a little back bend. You're going to reach up and feel that powerful lift now coming from the front of the legs. And then press the sides of your feet down into the floor. Good. We're going to come into Uttanasana. So bend your knees and just come halfway. Bring your hands onto your knees. If you reach easily, you can go below your knees. Good. And then we're going to arch the spine up and arch the spine forward or down and look up. Good. A couple more of those, like the cat stretch you were doing on all fours. And again, really enjoy discovering the suppleness of your spine. You can be a little bit playful if you like, finding all of that movement, that vitality. Good. Now we're going to keep the spine reaching forward. So the breastbone is lifting. You feel wide across your collarbones, your shoulders. And start to straighten one leg and then the other leg. If it feels fine for you to straighten both legs, you can do that. But if you straighten both legs and then suddenly your lower back pops up to the ceiling again, bend them until you can find that easy movement forward for your spine to feel long. Good, so you're straightening through one leg at a time or both legs if you can. Good, and we're breathing deeply. You might be able to reach the floor with ease, but again, we're not in a rush to reach the floor if it means that we are overstretching the lower back. So you want to be able to keep the lower back reaching forward or making that valley shape. So you might have your hands near to the floor. If you're new to yoga, you're probably going to be a little bit stiffer, so you might be here. Good, breathing. Just finding your limit. Good, and then bending your knees and rolling up. Arms up, look up. Good. Remember, front of the legs lift, front of the hips lift. Feel the power, base there. Nice work. And then Tadasana. So if you keep that lift in the front of your legs and feel down into your feet, across the balls of the feet, lengthen the toes forward. Feel the heels of the feet. And we want to have the weight evenly distributed. Powerful lift in the front of the legs, front of the hips, belly, breastbone, top of the head. Let yourself be really tall. Keep the chest wide. Draw the shoulder blades down. Roll the upper arms out, palms in. Good. And then you're going to face the side of the mat, so I'm going to turn this way too. And you're going to step lightly your feet apart so they're about your own leg length distance. Turn your right toes out at 90 degrees, your left toes in at 30 degrees. See how the hips go off at an angle. Just as much as your knees allow, we're trying to swivel the hips to line up to that long edge of the mat. But again, if we're not used to really using the front of the legs powerfully, the belly is going to spill forward and the bottom sticks out. So as much as you can, you want to try and lift the front of the quadriceps, lift the belly, lift the breastbone, and bring your hands in front of your heart. Reach your arms for Trikonasana. Inhale. Exhale. Reach your right fingertips. Reach them up and out so you can feel your whole arm stretch, your armpit stretch, your ribs stretch. We're going to keep reaching, keep reaching, keep reaching. And then you take your hand down to where you reach down onto your leg. Just don't put your hand onto your knee, either above or below. And we'll take the left arm straight up. So we want to make a nice vertical line through the arms and the heart. Good. Sharpen the edges of the feet into the mat and lift the front of your legs again. Good. From that planting of your feet, the strength in your legs, let your spine feel a little bit longer, a little bit more mobile again, a little more supple. Breathe deeply. Reach. Reach your legs, reach your spine, reach your arms. Make sure your neck is in a comfortable position. You want the sides of the neck not to be different lengths, but the same length. You can look forward. You can look up at your thumb, only if that feels okay for your neck. So you're taking notice. Good, and then we come up. Bring your hands back in front of your heart. Turn your feet to the front. And then to the second side. Strong legs. Good, and then we're taking notice of which way the hips sit. Just as much as your legs will allow. We want to line them up to that long edge of the mat. Watch your right toes. Just make sure they're turning in towards the middle rather than out. So strong legs, feeling powerful. Draw the front core in to support the back core. Lift the spine. Nice and spacious around your heart. Reach your arms, really reach. And then we'll take the left fingertips up and out. Left arm lengthens, armpit, ribs, reaching, reaching, reaching. And then take your hand down onto your leg. Might be here, might be here. But we're trying to get a nice vertical line through the arms, the heart. Okay, spread your toes and lengthen them. Press the outside edges of the feet deeply into the floor, but lift the tops of your feet. Good. Lift the fronts of your legs again. Fronts of the thighs, the fronts of the hips. And from that powerful foundation, let the spine lengthen. Lift your heart towards the ceiling. So you're reaching your legs, your spine, your arms. making sure both sides of the neck feel even, and breathe deeply in a way that feels most satisfying. Good, and then inhale and come up. Bring your hands in front of your heart. And here's a little trick. You can jump lightly back to center, or you can heel toe. So if you're jumping, keep it light. All right, Tadasana. Feel that powerful lift in the front of your legs, wisdom in your feet. So you feel even across the balls of the feet, the heels of the feet, the toes stretch forward, nice and straight. And from the lift in the front of the legs, feel the spine able to sit in a balanced way over the feet, and then the head can balance. Shoulders feel wide, shoulder blades reach down. Good, bring your hands in front of your heart. You can step or jump if you feel like it, keep it light. Your feet apart about your own leg length, and then we're going to add a little bit. So turn your right toes out 90 degrees. Left toes turn in rather than out, but we're going to bring that leg to bent position. We tend to then have the hips off at an angle, and we might be leaning over that leg. Where your hands are at your heart, feel the heart lift. See if you can bring the center of the breastbone back to center. The right knee is moving to the little toe side of the foot. The left hip wants to roll forward, and we're trying to open that hip. We're trying to sink the hips, but lift the pelvic floor, squeeze the front core. So we've still got that, imagining the front of the legs is lifting, the front of the hips is lifting, breastbone is lifting, even though the hips may be sinking. Just make sure you've got a wide enough distance so that this knee doesn't come in front of the ankle. So if I had too short a distance, I might be doing that. Too much pressure on my knee. But here I can powerfully use my feet, my legs. Reach your arms, looking over your right fingertips. Virabhadrasana 2, warrior 2. Breathe. Feel satisfied. Good. And then inhale and come up. And we're going to swap the feet to the second side. Bending the left knee this time, and turn the toes in of your right foot. So just make sure they're not turning out. The bent knee goes to the little toe side of the foot. And as much as you can, we're rolling back the right hip. We're trying to sink the hips, but you need to listen to your hips, your knees. And even though the weight of the hips presses down with gravity, we want to lift the pelvic floor, lift the front of the legs again, the front of the hips, lift the belly, lift the breastbone, then reach your arms. Feel the heart to be in the center, so not reaching out to the left. Reach back through your right fingertips, that might help. Neck is relaxed, both sides of the neck long. Breathing deeply. Feel the anchor of the feet, the power in your legs, the length of your spine, and that proud feeling of the chest being spacious. Good, bring your hands back in front of your heart. Turn your feet to the front, and you can step or you can jump lightly. Tadasana, we'll stand with the feet together. Feel the lift in the front of the legs, lift in the belly, lift in the chest. Close your eyes, feel down into your feet, the balls of the feet wide, the toes long. Sense the strength that you can access in your legs. And the more you use them powerfully, the more powerful they are going to become. Feel the ease of your spine balanced now, your neck. Feel the depth of the breath. Good. Bring your hands in front of your heart, open your eyes. We're going to step the feet or jump out lightly if you like, a little bit wider than your leg is long. Good, turn your right toes out at 90 degrees, your left toes in about 30 degrees. So just make sure the toes are in a little rather than out. Lining the heel up with the center of the left foot inner arch. We're going to bend the right knee. Okay, so again, we want to roll back the left hip, roll back the right knee, and we're going to take the elbow down onto the knee. If that's a little bit too strong to reach, you can try taking your arm. Good, so maybe even use your left hand. Just imagine you could roll that hip back a little more. We're going to lift the abdomen towards the ceiling. We're going to lift the heart towards the ceiling so you can look up at the ceiling. You can use your elbow onto your knee to help coax that knee back without rolling the left hip forward. Strong legs. Aware of your feet, aware of the length of your spine. Lastly, we're going to reach the left arm all the way up and then overhead. Upper arm by your ear, so you're a long straight line. Breathe deeply. Squeeze the pelvic floor. Find your core. Good, and then inhale and come up. Well done. Feet to the second side. So we're going to bend the left knee. The left knee goes to the little toe side of the foot. Just make sure your right toes turn in a little bit. Heel lines up with the center of the inner arch. Good. And we're going to either rest the left hand down onto the knee or the left elbow onto the knee. So your feet are planted, your legs are strong. You feel that opening in the front of the hips. We're trying to roll the right hip back, roll the right ribs back, lift the abdomen, lift the heart. Maybe you can look up at the ceiling comfortably for your neck. If you can get enough turn in the ribs, then the neck doesn't have to overcompensate. Otherwise, look forward. Good. We're going to reach up with the right arm. And then reach that arm all the way overhead. Feel the right side of the body lengthen. Left knee is moving back to the little toe side of the foot, and you're rolling back through your right hip. And you're breathing deeply. Sides of the neck long, feeling powerful through the pelvic floor as you lift your front core. Good, and then inhale and come up. Turn your feet to the front. Good. You can heel, toe back to center, or take a nice little jump. We're going to come into Tadasana. Close your eyes. Feel your feet sharing the load across the balls of the feet, the heels, each toe pad. Lift the arches of your feet. Lift the knees, the quadriceps, the front of the hips, the belly, the breastbone. Feel yourself to be tall. Find where your spine balances with ease. Shoulders relaxed, upper arms roll out, palms towards the sides of the legs. Mountain pose. Really enjoying the depth of the breath, the spaciousness of the breath. Good. And then we're going to take a seat, and it's great to sit onto a blanket. So I'm going to just use one of these. I'm going to sit down without using my hands. You can play around with that, but use your wisdom. We're going to sit so your legs are straight out in front. If you're really having trouble getting even up to straight because the hamstrings are pulling, then a higher support will make that a little bit easier. It's amazing the difference it makes. So we're trying to find that nice upright position for the spine, just as much as you can. Try to roll onto the front of your sit bones and have them just behind that front part of the support that you're on. If you've got a really soft blanket, you're probably not getting enough support, so hard blankets are the best. We're going to let the spine be as long as you can. We'll keep the chest wide. Just watch how your shoulders sit. Maybe they squash a little bit into your neck space naturally. So we're going to draw the shoulders down so you've really got plenty of space for your neck. But feel the front of the ribs lifting now, the breastbone lifting. Good. Stretch right out through your legs. Stretch out through the soles of the feet. Lengthen your toes. Nice straight toes. If it hurts your knees, to press the back of the knees down to the floor. Another little bit of support, maybe the end of your mat rolled up under your knees might work. It can just be a piece of clothing. Otherwise, really go for it. Straighten. Notice if when you try to stretch your toes, they curl around. See if you can get them into one plane. Details, details. So we're lengthening. Legs are lengthening, spine's lengthening, front torso is lengthening. Okay, and we're going to try and roll forward even more onto the front of the sit bones and bring your hands forward of your hips. And if that's really not working, you just feel like you're making a rainbow shape, then you're going to keep working with your hands behind your hips. Otherwise, we're going to try and walk the hands forward. It might be more useful to you to hold on to your legs to walk forward. Be in no hurry to reach your feet, because often what happens is we do anything to get hold of the feet and then the lower back is compromised and you're just stretching your thoracic spine. And really, we want to work against that natural tendency of gravity on the spine to keep the spine long and strong. So when you find the optimal shape of your spine, your best posture, really look after it. Be very respectful of that. See if instead you can hollow your belly, lift the breastbone, soften and deepen at the front of the hip crease so you can reach the torso a little further forward. So look for all the other ways that you can reach forward without compromising the shape of your spine. Paschimottanasana. Take a close look at the intense feelings in this posture, in the back of the legs. Maybe it's in your spine. Where is that intensity in your body? And with each satisfying deep breath, can you find a little more space, a little more length? Good. And then releasing and coming up. Good. Bring your legs into a simple cross-legged position. If your knees just won't sit like that, then take a semi-wide position. Okay. We're going to take the left hand to the outside of the right knee and the right hand to support you onto your blanket or onto the floor. Lift your spine, turn your ribs, and look over your right shoulder. The middle part of your spine can turn powerfully, and the bones are quite big in your spine there, so you can really reach. But be gentler with the way that you turn your neck. The bones are smaller, so focus on that mid section of your spine. The lower back can't really twist, those bones aren't shaped that way, but you can lift there. You can lengthen the muscle either side of your spine. You can lift your abdomen, lift your breastbone. Great. And then you find what seems to be your limit, just as far as your body's going to reach. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply so you feel the spaciousness of each breath. When you inhale, feel the space that takes up in your body, in your lungs, in your ribs. And as you exhale and you let go of that breath, there's a little bit of room to move. There's potential. See if you can find yourself reaching into that potential without straining your neck, without pushing, just letting yourself open to the possibility. Good, and then relax thoroughly, come back to center. You have a little visitor. It's good. Sitting for a moment, taking in that possibility in your body. Good. And then we're going to turn to the second side. So right hand to the outside of the left knee. Left hand for a little support, but be gentle with your hands. And feel where you can lengthen your spine. So think about lifting the belly, the breastbone, the ribs. Feel the middle part of your back, so through the rib cage. Feel how you can turn powerfully there. But be compassionate towards your neck. So you don't want to overdo it there. Nice stretch, but you're not trying to do the whole posture from your neck or your jaw or your face. And then find your limit. It feels so real. But when you close your eyes, take notice of your breath, the space that the inhalation takes up in your body. And then when you let go of that breath, feel the space left by the breath, the void in your body, the potential. Let yourself open into that potential with ease, with compassion. Good, and then relaxing back to center, taking notice. Great, and we're going to lay down now. Have your legs bent, your feet hip width and parallel, and your legs parallel. Okay, so just check that your toes don't turn in or out. Press your hands down onto the floor, and we're going to lengthen the arms down by the side of the body, but lift your chest a little, so make sure your ribs are free of your upper arms. They're not pinned. And then we're going to press the feet away from the sit bones, like you're trying to stretch your mat. And you're going to squeeze your buttock muscles and lift up. So we're pressing the feet, stretching the mat, squeezing the buttock muscles, and lengthen the front of your thighs as you lift your hips. Good, nice and wide across the space of the heart. Good, now try to keep squeezing the buttock muscles together as you lower down. And we're going bone by bone, finding all of that beautiful movement. Good, and then you can relax the work of gluteus maximus, of your legs, of your feet. Just take a moment to relax. Enjoying deep breath. Good, and we're going to do that again. So we'll start off by stretching the feet, the parallel feet, away. So you're pressing into your mat and you're stretching the mat. And then you're going to squeeze gluteus maximus, the buttock muscles, closer to each other. Good, and then we're going to lift. Lifting each bone of your spine. So powerfully stretching the mat with your feet. Don't let the knees come apart, so keep the legs parallel. Squeeze the buttock muscles together. Relax your throat, relax your face. Good, and then you're going to lower down bone by bone, finding every little bit of movement. And then thoroughly relax feet and legs. Feel really satisfied in your breath. Good, and we're going to do one more of those. So hands down so the chest feels wide. Stretch your feet, squeeze the buttock muscles together. If you want to lift higher, you could try bringing your heels in a little bit closer. So squeezing again. Stretch your feet again, stretch the mat. And lifting up. Let the front of the thighs lengthen as you lift the hips. Keep the neck nice and long. Breathe deeply. Keep the legs parallel. Keep squeezing buttock muscles together. Good, and then you're going to lower down. Bone by bone. Keep squeezing, squeezing. And then completely relax. Hug your knees into your chest. Let your lower back widen and lengthen. Finding the space of your breath. Good, and then you're going to lay out for the relaxation. So when you've got your legs bent, you tuck the tailbone up to the ceiling, and then your lower back is as long as it can be. And letting your legs out to straight, so you're a really straight line. Sometimes it helps to have a look. And then you can just let your legs roll out. Remembering if you have to reach your head back to the floor, then put a blanket, one of your blankets, under your head and your neck, but not your shoulders. Let your shoulders be really wide onto the floor. Arms out from the sides of your body. Some people have eye bags. They're really a lovely thing to use, so you could put those on, or even just take your glasses off if you're a glasses wearing yogi. This is your time to let your nervous system make sense of all that new information. To settle. So you can stay here for as long as you like. Focusing on each breath in and out of your nostrils. And with your awareness on your breath, focusing on your feet, let them be relaxed. Your ankles, your legs. On your hips and your belly, maybe you can feel the breath moving there. Buttocks and lower back, let them relax. Middle back, between your shoulder blades. The back of your ribs, the front of your ribs. Between your collarbones. Shoulders, your arms. Armpits. Backs of your hands. Palms. Thumbs and fingers. Feel the breath moving in your throat and your face, back of your neck and your skull, scalp, jaw. Breath moving in the whole body, whole body. When you're ready, you'll bend your legs and roll to your right side. Take the feeling of the practice with you. Namaste.